In today's episode, we are going to ask the question, can you love to shop and still be organized? Shopping is a hot topic amongst my clients and members, so let's get into it. I actually want to start by sharing the story of one of my clients. When I first started my business, I used to offer one-on-one coaching for organizing. Now I do a lot of business coaching and we still go into clients' homes and help them get organized, but I no longer offer one-on-one organizing coaching. But I had this incredible client and she came to me because she absolutely loved shopping, but her shopping habit had really turned into a massive clutter problem. And she loved shopping, not just because she loved fashion, which she did, but she loved the feeling of shopping. She loved the feeling of being able to buy her daughter all the fun clothes that she wanted to dress her up in. She hadn't been able to do a lot of shopping when she was younger. And now that she could afford it, she just shopped. And what happened over time was that she actually lost her love of shopping because it became almost an addiction, almost something that she had to do all the time. And she started working with me and we really started unpacking why she loves to shop or why she had loved it, why she shops in the first place, and why it had turned into a problem. And flash forward, by the end of our working together, which was just a few sessions, she reclaimed her love of shopping. That was the outcome that I wanted for her, not to stop shopping, but to reclaim her love of shopping, but only for the items that she really loved and would really use. So in this episode, I want to talk with you about the process that I put her through and the questions that she asked herself to get her to this outcome of loving shopping again, but not having this need to do it all the time. So a lot of people think that professional organizers want you to stop shopping altogether. And while some organizers might, and I personally don't love shopping, although I have had my own actual transformation around this, which I will get into, I really want you to love shopping if you've always loved it and you've sort of lost the fun of it because you've gotten so stuck in the consumption and the negative patterns that shopping can get us into. So, what is the problem with shopping? So, I want you to contemplate this. If you bring nothing else into your house than what you have in it right now, you will never have more clutter than you have at this moment. Like if you didn't get rid of anything, if you didn't bring anything else in your house, what is in your house right now is the maximum amount of clutter you'd ever had. Now, obviously, we don't live like this. And not just because we shop, right? Our kids bring things home and we have to get groceries and the mail comes in, right? Things do come into our house, but it is truly our shopping that creates such a clutter problem. And I love talking about the shopping piece of this because, as you know, everything in our life works as a system. How we shop, how we keep our houses, how we show up, how we feel about ourselves. It's all so interrelated. And I want to bring intention and awareness to your shopping habits so you can love what you own, you can love your life again. And if that sounds like it's hard to wrap your head around, like how can my shopping habits impact the rest of my life? Keep listening. So let's just put this out there. We all buy too much, myself included. Even though I think about every single thing I'm going to buy and where it's going to go in my home, I still buy too much. We all do. We just live in that culture. And so let's just take the shame away from that. And also let's recognize that we are operating in a system that is hard to break these patterns, but it is so possible. We know that shopping causes clutter, but it also can cause guilt when we're buying stuff either we can't afford or we know we didn't need, we're not going to wear. It can also cause debt. And oftentimes, here's the kicker, it creates more to-dos for us because we have to do returns or donation runs when our closet is overflowing. So even though in the moment shopping might feel good, it's never just that one-time purchase. There are consequences that happen as a result of it. And here's the good news. You are 100% in control of your shopping habits. And at the end of listening to this, you can decide to have a totally different relationship to shopping. Truly, all it takes is listening to this episode and then deciding if you want to change your relationship with shopping or not. So let's get into some research. You know that I love data and research, and I find this so interesting. Stress shopping has become so normalized. We have a name for it, retail therapy. And this isn't just, something that we say flippantly and for fun. There is actually data and research that shows this corollary between stress shopping and those of us feeling like it is actually a form of therapy, because in the moment, it can feel really good. It can temporarily improve your mood and eliminate stress. But what the research also shows us, and listen, truthfully, we all can attest to this, it doesn't last, because then we need the next fix and the next and the next and the next best thing. And, the latest version of this has come out or the latest style of this has come out, and we just want more, more, more. And it gives us an even bigger problem, which is clutter, stress, guilt, to-dos, debt, shame, lots of things. So what was once just fun, just shopping, right? How many of us love to go to the mall when we were younger or have kids who love to go shopping just for fun? It really turns into something that can take over our lives. And it can make us feel like we are out of control. And yet we can still see things that we want to buy and just feel like this is a problem for another day. So what can we do about it? Well, first, get super clear on what are your shopping habits. So here are a few questions to ask yourself. When do you shop? Are you someone who shops all day long, all the time? Are you a nighttime online shopper who shops when you don't want to go to sleep at night, you're on your phone? Are you someone who shops with friends only just for fun? Do you take your kids shopping? Like, what kind of shopper are you? When do you shop? And what is the motivation behind your shopping? Is it an emotional motivation? Are you a bargain shopper? Are you a luxury shopper? Are you a mindless shopper? Do you seek adrenaline by going shopping, right? So when do you shop? And what type of shopper are you? Really start thinking about the answers to those questions. And do you love what you buy? Do you keep most of it and use it? Or do you return most of it? Or does it sit in your house unused? And I've seen all of this. I've seen people who shop a ton and they love everything they buy and they use it all. I've seen people who love shopping and then the adrenaline wears off and they decide to return everything. And then there are people who buy, don't actually love any of it. It sits in their house unused. We've had clients where we'll go through their closets and we'll purge thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of clothing that still has its tags on it. And there's no shame here, friends, right? Like, we all have different reasons that we've gotten into this habit of buying things that we want in the moment that we don't actually wear or love. And it does fill this void for us. So we're not shaming ourselves out of this habit. When we're asking these questions, it's really just to get an understanding of who we are. What is motivating our shopping? Why are we taking these shopping trips? Why are we buying the things that we're buying? And are we using them? Are we loving them? And then the last question to ask yourself is there a particular type of thing you buy? Do you love to buy food? Do you love to buy clothing? Do you love to buy toys? Do you love to buy beauty items? Me personally, I fall in that beauty items category, beauty products, makeup. I love all of that. So you might have all of those. And when you think about when you shop and what type of shopper you are, you might be all of them, right? You might feel like, oh my gosh, I shop for all those reasons and I shop at all those times and I buy all of those things. And that's okay too, friend. The point of this exercise is just to understand yourself, because what I know for sure is that we can't seek a solution and put a solution into action if we don't really understand the problem. So this is all about understanding yourself a little bit with no shame, no judgment. All right. So we've identified the problem. We're getting a little bit more clear on the type of shopper you are. So that is, and your shopping habits. That's really the first part of the solution. And the second part of the solution is mindset shifts and forgiveness. So we think that shopping will be a stress release, and it can be in the moment. But what I really want you to do is shift your perspective to see that it is actually a source of stress and is causing problems. Don't beat yourself up. Don't think about the money spent. A lot of us dig our heels in and we think, I've already spent the money. There's nothing I can do about it. And that just keeps us stuck in the cycle. The money has been spent. We are not going to beat ourselves up over it. If we can return these items and get some money back, great, do it. If you can't, okay. We're not going to keep these things just because we've spent money on them, just because they're in our home. If we're not eating them, if we're not wearing them, if we're not using them, let them go. Now that you have this new awareness, it will start to impact how you shop. We're going to get into that in a minute. But really having this mindset shift and this forgiveness of yourself feels like taking a deep breath, doesn't it? And feels so liberating. So forgive yourself for anything you've done up until this point, even if you've gotten yourself into a real pickle, even if you've gotten yourself into some debt because you've spent more than you can afford. We're not going to beat ourselves up. We're going to forgive ourselves, but we're going to decide in this moment, right now, that you can do things differently. So how do we do that? I want you to visualize who you want to be going forward. From this point on, how do you want to feel about shopping? How do you want your house to feel when packages arrive or you come home from a shopping trip? Do you want to feel like, oh my gosh, yes, this is the thing that I've been waiting for? We open the box. We know exactly in our home where it's going to go. We know exactly when and how we're going to use it. Or we come home from a shopping trip and we're like, I love everything I just bought. I'm going to go hang it in my closet. I'm going to wear this tomorrow. Like you just love everything you've gotten. This is available to you. Change is possible because we get to choose who we want to be. So I want to share a story with you. I had always dreamed of buying myself one of the beautiful, buttery Chanel handbags. And I wanted it to be gifted to me. Here's the thing. No one was buying me one. And I wanted this for years and years and years, ever since I had moved to New York after college and saw beautiful Chanel bags. I always had the one in my mind that I would buy. So several years ago, I bought myself a vintage Chanel bag and I loved it. I still love it. I actually carry it almost every single day. I also did get myself another beautiful handbag that I will sometimes swap out with. But the Chanel bag that I bought, vintage meaning used, meaning pre-owned, meaning a lot less expensive. And I loved it and I carry it daily. But it wasn't the one I really, really wanted. So all these years later, 15 years later, maybe 20 years later, I finally decided to buy myself my dream bag. And it's very, very expensive, thousands of dollars. And I freaking love that bag. It is my favorite purse. And part of the reason that I love it so much is because I had to wait so long to get it. Do you know how sweet it is after all of this time to finally own it? So I want you to think about that. I want you to think about the joy of delayed gratification, not the punishment of it. It's like an orgasm. The longer it builds over time, the better it is. Same thing with buying something that we really want. Now, this example is kind of extreme because the bag is so expensive. It's such a luxury item. But think about this on a micro scale. If we don't just buy everything we want in the moment, but we actually delay that gratification just a little bit, think about how much sweeter it is when it arrives. So here are some tips to bring intention to your shopping by planning your shopping ahead of time. So if you are going to be shopping in person, make a list of the things that you want and determine where anything you buy will live in your house once you bring it home. And then sit with that list for a few days, for a week. You don't have to wait 10 years, but wait a few days and see, do you really want these things? Do you really need them? If yes, go buy them and feel so good and excited about what you just bought. And if you are an online shopper, which I am for the most part, put the things in your cart, put the things in your Amazon cart or whatever cart it is, and just don't immediately press buy. Let them sit in your cart for a little bit. Now, if you know that if something were to get purchased over the next few days and that all of a sudden it's out of stock, you'd be so devastated. That's a pretty clear sign that you want that item. But if you would feel kind of meh about it or not sure, or you could find something that would easily replace it, maybe you don't actually need to buy that thing. So just building in this pause before we actually shop, right? So making a list, sitting with it for a few days, adding things to our cart, but not actually buying, is this forced intentionality to what you're doing. And doing this can actually bring back your love of shopping. Or what I've seen for a lot of people who are in my membership is it makes you realize that shopping doesn't have the allure that you thought it did, that consumption doesn't have that allure, that having things no longer feels exciting, because what feels exciting is living in a house with breathing room, living in a house where you know where everything is, living in a house where you don't have too many things. And I think for most of us, we find this sort of middle ground where, or this is the ideal of what my members have found, where you live in a house where there is that breathing room, everything is in its space, but we live in 2024 where we want convenience. We want to be able to buy things quickly. And we do that because we can, and we want to take advantage of that, but we're buying things that we actually need and use and love. And then when it comes to those bigger purchase items, that's where we really pause and bring intentionality to it. And it becomes so much sweeter when we get those things we want. So I actually posted a question on my Instagram account about where do you struggle with shopping? And so I want to share some of the responses that came in, because I think, like so many of the things I talk about on this podcast, there can be shame around it. And when we realize that other people are in the exact same boat that we're in, it makes us feel just a little bit more quickly. So someone said the little stuff adds up quickly. Isn't that the truth, right? So I was talking about a designer bag, but most of us are buying really inexpensive things, but it adds up so quickly. One person said that the problem with shopping is they're not sure where to put things. And this goes back to that intentionality of before you purchase anything. I've talked about this in previous episodes. Before I purchase anything, whether it be a snack food or a clothing item, I always ask myself, where is it going to go in my house? And the benefit of this is twofold. One, it makes me pause and ask myself if I really need this thing. And then the second benefit is when it arrives, because most of the shopping I do is online, I know exactly where it's going to go in my house. So it doesn't become a delayed decision. It doesn't just sit on my kitchen counter. I know exactly where I am going to put it. Someone said, I'm trigger happy. I want it all. And yeah, I think a lot of us can relate to that feeling, especially because it's so easy. to look at social media and get bombarded with ads, which so much of social media is, even if we don't realize it, right? We follow influencers and we love following their lives and we see what they're using and we think, oh, that's going to be the thing that is going to make my life better. This is why I love beauty products and makeup, because I always fall into that trap of like, this is the thing that's going to make me look 5 years younger, make my lips look plumper or whatever, right? I fall into that trap also, but we want it all. And then the problem is a lot of us buy it all and then we can't use it all. And then it becomes clutter and then it weighs us down. So all that pleasure we thought we were going to get from it is overshadowed by all of the stress of it. Someone said, I'm a sucker for a really good deal. I'm working hard to reframe that and bring less into the house. Well, I love that you're working hard to reframe that. And here is something that I was taught growing up. You can't save money when you're spending it. So we might think we're saving it because there's a deal or I was going to buy it anyway. And so I'm saving the money I would have spent on it. Okay, theoretically. But if you take a step back, if you're spending money, period, you are not saving it, right? So let's keep that in mind when we see something that's a really good deal. If we don't need it and we weren't going to buy it anyway, we are not actually getting any benefit from the good deal. We are still losing out. And then someone said, if I need something, I buy it cheap and I have to replace it too quickly. And I think this is a great point. And there is a professional organizing team out of New York City called Dunn & Dunhome, a mother-daughter team. And they introduced me to this concept of owning well. They talk about it often. And the idea is instead of buying a bunch of cheap crap, you buy fewer, nicer things. And I love this idea. And I have to say that over time, over the last few years, I mean, I guess really since I started my organizing journey 7 years ago, I've really adopted this. And instead of buying lots of inexpensive things, I prefer to have really nice items, nice handbags, nice clothing. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still do buy some Amazon clothing. It's all about high, low, and balance. But I would really prefer to have nice items that are going to be classic and timeless and last me forever than spend money on things that you're just going to end up replacing. Because in the long run, you probably end up spending the same amount because you've had to replace things numerous times, but you've had to deal with the headache and the aggravation of replacing things. And also, you don't get to experience that full pleasure of buying something really nice and loving it. So try to adopt this philosophy of owning well, or at least think about if there are areas in your life where it might make sense for you. So in the beginning of this episode, I told you that I would share sort of my own personal transformation with shopping. And of course, when I was younger, I used to love to shop. And then somewhere along the way, I just stopped enjoying it. It became annoying, frankly. I don't like clothing shopping. I just don't like it. I just don't find it fun anymore, other than online shopping for beauty products. And whenever I'd have to buy my kids stuff, new clothing, I used to find it just annoying, because you'd either have to take them to get their clothing, and taking two little kids shopping isn't fun, or buy stuff online and then you don't know what sizes, you end up sending things back to go to the post office. It just felt like a chore. But as my kids have gotten older, and I really love spending time with them, and they love shopping, and we have tried to instill in them the philosophies that I'm sharing with you in this podcast, that it's not about not liking shopping. It's not about not consuming anything or buying anything, but it's about bringing that intentionality. Do you really want this thing? We're not going to buy it today. We're not going to buy it in this moment. You're going to have to use your money on some of these things. So is it worth your money, right? Teaching our children that we're not just going to impulse buy everything. So much that they do is, instant gratification at their fingertips. They can't even watch a full TV show or a full movie anymore because they're so used to 30-second video clips on, social media or on YouTube that change so quickly that they really have lost the art of delayed gratification. So one of the ways I'm trying to teach this to my children is with shopping. So I think they have a healthy love of shopping. They like to buy nice things. It's not something we do all the time. Very rarely do it. But when we do it, we've now made it fun. And so I still don't enjoy shopping for myself, but I really actually now enjoy taking my kids shopping because they think it is so fun They think it is such a luxury. And so I love taking them for back to school shopping, or if they've grown out of their clothing or need something for a special occasion, making it almost ritualized, like really, really fun. Make it a big deal. Go out for, a fun lunch. I mean, fast food people, but make it a really fun, enjoyable day, because I don't want my kids to hate shopping. I just want them to have a healthy appreciation for it. I want them to anchor into this idea of delayed gratification. And I want them to buy the things that they really are going to love and use. And sure, is there a place in childhood for frivolous shopping? Of course there is. Not everything needs to be so serious all the time. But, I talk about instilling these systems and habits and routines in our kids so young, and all their organizing habits. This is a big piece of it. Imagine how differently you would approach shopping now if when you were younger, someone instilled in you this framework and this perspective and these tools to not just immediately shop. And so because of that, just like my client in the very beginning of this episode reclaimed her love of shopping, my kids enjoy shopping, and I reclaimed my love of shopping by having this be an activity that we do together. So if you use these tools, it is totally available to you to get back your love of shopping, but also to let go of the guilt and the shame and the debt and just that sort of compulsion to shop. So let's quickly recap. We hopefully, after almost 30 minutes, now understand why shopping is not just so simple and not just fun, right? There really is a challenge with it, which is the clutter it brings in our house and the guilt and the shame and the debt. And research shows us that this is very common, that people use shopping as a quick fix, this idea of retail therapy, but it actually doesn't fix anything for us. And so what we can do to fix this problem is get super clear on our shopping habits when we shop, what type of shopper we are, what we love to buy, adopt these mindset shifts, this new perspective. Now that you see it, you can't unsee it, friends. Forgive yourself for anything you've done with your shopping habits up until this point. Just forgive, move on, and decide right now that you're going to do things differently. And the way you do that is by visualizing how you want to feel about shopping, how you want to feel when packages arrive in your home, building in that pause before you buy something in person or buy something online, and then realize that you can actually love shopping when it's not something that you do all the time. I really hope that this resonates with you and that you recognize that literally right now, in this moment, you have the power to make better choices and do things differently so that you too can rediscover your love of shopping. So maybe if you were going to go shopping today, after listening to this, you just pause and you say, not going to do it today. Normally I am a very in the moment person. I always say, don't put off to tomorrow what you could do today. Here is one area where I'm going to say, you know what? Let's actually pause. Let's not do that thing today. And let me know how your shopping habits have transformed after listening to this. Have an amazing day. You are amazing.